Yeah. Yeah. No, on Monday night I do.
Oh, Monday.
That's the
that's for the
ensemble new SRQ. You should go to that if you
Yeah.
can. Like
Monday night?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll see if I can.
Looks like a cool concert, and they're just good people to know, and they might do something of ours or something.
Yeah.
So.
Hi.
Hello, hello.
All right, so I'm going to make sure your mic is on. And then I'm going to start.
I didn't send it a little bit, but because I was waiting.
I don't think it made a difference.
I don't think
didn't make it.
Yeah. I mean, this has happened before. This time it's artist talk for me.
So hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming. For those of you who don't know me, and anybody on YouTube, I'm Ron Silver. I am producer and interim director of New Music, New College, and welcome to the Harry Sudakoff Center. Right now, this is in process. It will look much more interesting on Saturday night. So make sure to come back for our concert at 8 o'clock. Before I begin, I have to take attendance. This is for a grant that we've received. This is not anything that will affect your income tax or FBI knocking on the door. But if your permanent address, and that's whatever you consider it, is within Sarasota County, would you please raise your hand? If it's within the state of Florida. Oh.
Did you say Manatee too?
No.
No, you didn't.
Oh, no. If it's within the state of Florida but not in Sarasota, would you raise your hand? If it's outside the state of Florida but within the United States, would you raise your hand? I'm presuming that you all live in the United States. Anybody live outside the United States? They're permanent residents. Great. Thanks for that. So this is an artist conversation, and what we will do with the wonderful Recap Quartet behind me, Recap will start just by playing something, and then we'll all talk about what that felt like to us. So I'm going to go back there and unmute the microphones and let Recap do what they do. So thanks for coming. So, before we even find out the name of that piece, I just wanted to ask people what they thought, what questions that might have brought to mind, and anything that you want to say. Anybody? Oh, yes, sir. You in the front.
But I really, really enjoyed the piece. I was so pleasantly surprised, maybe the right word, I'm not sure, but the way the piece began, I thought, okay, this is like the prelude, the introduction, and then something else is going to happen. Because I was thinking, you could keep going like this. This could just keep going for I don't care how long. It's always interesting. So I was really delighted that you're not going to like suddenly explode into some whole new thing. This is really focusing the listening. And I thought the piece really invited a close listening in the sense that you're not trying to hear recursively or anything, but just to be able to hear the little pulsations that would change and a different one. Anyway, it was really I enjoyed being in the presence of this performance. It was really great.
I'm going to try for the YouTube audience to summarize that, if you couldn't hear, which was basically Steve's enjoyment of the fact that it didn't start as a prelude and go someplace else, and that it invited close listening of all that was going on and kind of drew you in. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Please.
Yeah, so thank you very much for coming here, and thanks for the great performance. I really enjoyed listening to the performance and the piece. So I'm just curious to know about the process of making the composition a little bit, and then also like you use a like a counter, right? What's the role of the counter? Yeah.
So just to repeat that, your first question was?
Just knowing about the process of composition.
Oh, the process of composition,
yeah,
and then
how they write it
and then use of the counter. So at this point, could you tell us about the name of the piece and the composer, and then your use of the counter? Should be on.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hi. Okay, so we're Recap. Hello, thank you for coming. My name is Alexis. The title of this piece is By the Time We Look for It. It's composed by Jenny Beck. I like that you said that it feels like it doesn't go anywhere. So the point of this is supposed to be actually a bit meditating, and how she writes the music. There is no music. I'll show you what our score looks like. But it's supposed to be at our own breath rate. So the pulsations that you're saying, it's supposed to be like one breath in, one breath out, one breath in. That's how we're counting it. In the beginning, we put on a stopwatch because we can do this piece for, like you said, as many minutes as we want. But we cut it down. We did 2 minutes, like each line today. So I'll read the notes that she has. This is obviously, it's a found percussion piece. It's written for any amount of players. Each player has 5 sounds. The 3 friction sounds that we have a mid spectrum, a low spectrum, and a high spectrum. Maybe we can show that so you guys can see the differences. Let's play our mid spectrum. Okay, so this is our first resonant sound, our mid spectrum have that written in blocks. Maybe I'll come down so you can see. It's written this way so that every blocked out section is where we're playing. The white sections is where we stop. Let me go back. No, she described it very well. Each player has 5 sounds, 3 friction sounds produced by rubbing any 2 surfaces together, and then 2 ding sounds produced by striking any resonant object with another object. All the sounds, each are rather quiet, so it's mic'd up. The time is measured in breaths. The players proceed through the score at their own breath rate, allowing them to focus on breathing and moving at their own pace. Our score is notated graphically, so we don't need to know how to read music to play this. Anyone can come up here and play this, right? The score specifies how many units of time that we need to spend on each sound. That's what's blocked out and not blocked out. She says that she can perform this piece by herself, or preferably she likes to invite other festival participants to come on stage and do it with her. This could be in a concert setting or an installation, immersion setting. So as long as the space is quiet, it works out. She also wrote that she wanted to do something with unpitched and arrhythmic material so that each performance would be different from the other. So each time we kind of pick different found instruments to use. Like this alarm clock, we started using an alarm clock because last time we performed, we stole one from our hotel. Beads, we were in a dollar store and we were like, oh, this sound cool, put them on the Tiffany. So every time we do it differently in a way, so it's also interesting. Said it's to bring the performers and the audience into a state of breath-based meditation, invite the listeners to an intimate experience in which they're bathed in soft sound. Anything that you want to see or hear? Okay, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, you're raising your hand.
I kind of have another question.
Yes.
As typical of professors, I'm going to start with a comment.
Okay.
So I've been teaching a class on critical literary theory, which seems pretty far from this, but one of the things that we read this term talks about something called defamiliarization, which is the idea that the purpose of art is to make us see the familiar and pay more attention to it, right? So to notice that stone that you skip over, that you walk over every day, and to actually notice things like that. And he's talking about poetry, but I was really struck by the way that you make me think about everyday objects in a really different way. And the sort of question that was in my mind, and you've sort of, I think, pointed to it by linking this to meditation, was would something be missing from this piece if it was just sound, if it was recorded and we didn't see the objects that are actually making the sounds? Because some of them I could never have told you what they were, but seeing the beads, seeing the alarm clock, seeing the pencil, I think it is, on the music stand, for me added another layer. So I'm just wondering about that.
And I just want to try to distill that for our vast YouTube audience. So Professor Wallace talked about how she was thinking about the concept of defamiliarization, art used to make us aware of the everyday familiar objects that we don't pay much attention to, and to start paying attention to them and maybe even looking at them in different ways. And then she mentioned that the found objects that RECAP used for this piece reminded her of that. She was thinking about them in ways that she hadn't before, and she wondered if RECAP thought the piece would be different or maybe not as effective if it were simply oral, simply recorded, and you couldn't see the interesting and, in certain ways, everyday objects that they use. So what do you think?
Right, so I think it really does add another piece, like looking at what you're seeing playing. I think maybe it makes more or less sense to like you personally seeing us like grab this and make the noise, rather than if you just heard it on the audio, you would have to guess. So I don't know, when we see the audience when we're doing this piece, because we're looking around, a lot of people do tend to close their eyes by the time we get to the second spectrum sound. So I think seeing what you're hearing and then closing your eyes after effect is what's cool about the found sounds, you know?
And that was, oh, I'm sorry. I had the same kind of experience.
Yeah.
Close my eyes, open my eyes.
think it also does add to the meditative effect if you do close your eyes. So I think it would pass as something that's audio only, but seeing it does add a different layer to it.
You were going to say, Steve?
No, but I think it was the question about closing your eyes or keeping your eyes open. I do think there's a difference between sitting alone and listening to something in audio and sitting with your eyes closed in the presence of you who are up there making the music with the tape and also everyone else who's in the space. So I actually felt pretty comfortable with my eyes closed, but then I feel like I'm kind of erasing you all. So I want to, I want to open, but I think that really captured a lot of the meditative quality of it. Is that it seemed like it sort of invited attending to your own breath. Maybe not so much like attention as in consciously.
No, not consciously, just like.
Yeah, but when you stop, when I stopped waiting for something else that was going to happen, then I really wanted to close my eyes and just go into that experience.
So just trying to summarize, and then I'll get to LJ. The meditative experience, the closing your eyes in this live experience was something that worked for Steve, and then I just wanted to add to that, seeing the piece begin, so you see what you're doing, then getting the meditative and closing your eyes. It would be very different from pressing, play on a. Well, I was going to say a CD player. That dates me. Putting a Victrola, dropping the needle on your Victrola, and just hearing that. So yeah.
Yeah, we did this a little differently today. Sometimes we do sit on the floor in like a half circle with the instruments in front of us. So that would make it a little more or less obvious to what the sound is and all of that. But yeah.
And Professor White?
I just sort of am having thoughts in reaction to all of this more than questions. So sorry, I'm doing the professor thing too. But,
that's great.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, it does, right? It's blessing, I guess. I think I enjoyed how I could go in and out of group texture and individual texture too. So there were times when I was just listening to the whole group and I wasn't finding myself concerned with the individual sounds. I was more in a meditative place, and now that you mentioned that breaths govern how long you're playing things for, I think I really felt that. But every now and then a sound would catch my attention, especially when it was new. And then I'd have the added, enjoyment of, oh wow, that's so interesting. I didn't expect a pencil on a music stand. So it's neat that you can kind of telescope people's attention in and out of individuals with this piece.
Yeah.
And I wondered if you thought about that when you chose the sounds, because it was up to you to choose the sounds, right?
Yeah.
So were you trying to choose sounds that would assert themselves, or were you trying to choose sounds that would blend, or both?
I think we do choose a little bit of both, because usually we'll try and sometimes when we know we're going to play this piece, we'll scramble together last second and we'll be like, oh god, what are we playing? But I guess that's kind of the point of it too, because it's always supposed to be found. I think one time we used an ice bucket from that hotel too.
The all hotel version.
But usually when we kind of scramble together and put them, we try to sort them out so they kind of sound good together. If you notice, all of our low or mid frequency ones kind of have that same grating, slow sound, while all the high ones were kind of fast and higher pitched together. So they kind of all do blend together, but at the same time, I think when we start hitting the dings, they kind of strike out more. So I think it does depend on what type of sound we're looking for. We kind of do try to blend them together, but at the same time, we want to stick them out a little bit. When you were using the plastic bags, they kind of, it stuck out.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're making compositional choices by what instruments you choose.
Yeah. But at the same time, it does stay random, because we try and keep it different every time.
The dings is the composer taking you out of the meditation. That's what you're saying, it catches your attention to listen to the group or listen individually. So by the end, when we're hitting the high and low
Yeah, Professor White, again, for YouTube, Professor White had mentioned that he would, and I'm probably going to misstate this, but he would vary from his attention from listening to the overall texture to then hearing something which pulled him into individual sounds and noticing how cool something sounded, how unexpected something sounded. I think all of which just goes, to me, to show there's an awful lot going on in this really quiet piece that the composer came up with and that you all bring out. Yes, please.
So you might have already answered this question in your response, but just wanted to know, was there any challenge when you were rehearsing the piece? What was the challenging part of pulling off the piece?
Let me just say, so Professor Tabatabi asked, was there challenges in rehearsal, and what maybe specifically was there challenging to do to make this piece happen?
Challenges that we had trying to learn this piece, like in the very beginning, we don't have like set rhythmic patterns that we use. So like sometimes we'll accidentally listen to each other and like pick up the same rhythmic pattern, and then you can't differentiate what's doing what. We were actually mindful of that today. We did it again today. But that is like one of the biggest challenges, and also like finding things, because since we are not from here, we had to like bring stuff or like find stuff from our hotel or something nearby. So normally when we do play this piece, it's never anything from home. We had to like search as soon as we get to our destination to find something. And sometimes we can't find anything, so then we had to like go to a store and what are we gonna buy? So those are like our two biggest challenges, like finding something when we get there, even though we're gonna play the piece, and like differentiating what exactly we're doing with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, and Recap arrived at 4 in the morning after a delayed flight and a drive from Tampa that Avis added several hours to for the delight of standing in line at a rental car counter. So it's not like they've had a lot of time to find interesting objects. They probably didn't spend much conscious time at their hotel when they finally got there.
If you come to our concert, we'll have way more interesting items probably.
So yes, for those of you watching, come or at least watch the live stream at 8 o'clock on Saturday for this fabulous concert. Any other comments? Because there's another piece that they could play a nice little segment of.
One last thing. Closing eyes means we can't watch you look at each other. You know, like occasionally you look. So if you just close your eyes, you know, the sounds are there, but there's also some eye contact that happens in the piece that when it happens, it doesn't happen often, but when it happens, it's like, that's what that's about.
It's like sometimes we want to make sure like we're not like going into the days ourselves, and like that we're aware of like what we're doing. So then we do like look at each other, and it's like, oh, you picked up something new. Oh, you picked up something new. Right.
And it's also based on the time thing too, because we kind of have to set a time of like whatever we need to play, or else we're gonna keep going.
Right.
And be like, hey, where are you right now? You know, you kind of tell who's where based on what they're about to pick up, and it's like you're already there. Yeah.
So that was in response to a comment by Professor Miles that if you as an audience member do get meditative and close your eyes, one of the things that you miss, in addition to seeing what the sounds are being generated by, is the interaction from the performer. So that's what prompted that question. So can we hear that other piece? Cool, I'm gonna have to go back and get that ready. Hey, Aaron, thanks for coming. And I happen to know that was an excerpt of a piece that they'll be doing. But again, before they tell us about this, any responses from anybody? Any thoughts? Questions?
That one's not meditative.
That one is not meditative, Professor Wallace. Well, one of the things that struck me was the dialogue between the flute and the bass drum, because they're so different, and they're different ranges and different sound processes, and so it's not like something I was expecting. And so, how did you choose that piece, or how did the process of that piece come about?
I wonder if this, okay, it does work. So how we chose this piece, we didn't choose this piece. Our manager chose this piece, actually. This is like one of the first pieces that we introduced to our group. It's we were in high school still when this was brought upon to us. So that was a couple years ago, 3-4 years ago, about so. Yeah, so thank you, Joe. So yes, I do know the composer. The composer is Allison Loggins Hull. She was my former flute professor at Montclair State University. So her program notes, this is called Hammers. Her notes are, it is inspired by construction noise and other industrial type sounds one can hear when living and walking through the busy streets of New York City. While the sounds are created, they are often catastrophic and erratic. There is still a sense of order and focus to get the job done. So if you listen closely, you can sometimes hear the ostinato rhythms, which is between me or between her more so. So yeah, it's mostly supposed to evoke panic. It's supposed to startle you a little bit. So we do put this in the middle of our program to wake everybody up to just a little bit. So yeah.
Well, I was trying to how to describe this, but I felt pleasantly jerked around.
Professor Miles felt pleasantly jerked around.
Well, I mean, because it's going like this, it goes in every direction, and then it goes back, and every time, I mean, I'm not facing you all, but I can feel how anytime that would shift, we're all going, whoa, what's happening? Anyway, I love that. And how long is that excerpt? That's like a minute and a half?
The whole piece? That was a page and 2 lines.
It wasn't even a
But it was so exciting. It's that feeling of, I don't know exactly when they're going to go back to that other thing, but the flute and the bass drum. Anyway, it's cool.
Any other comments? The kind of expanding on what you were saying, I think that it's really interesting how it does send this kind of jolt through the room. So it really ties the audience listeners into what you're doing and into each other in really interesting ways.
And Professor Wallace said, well, that's not meditation. True.
I was gonna say it's pretty danceable though. I was about to get up and dance.
Absolutely.
Really
And
it's Stravinsky.
It's organized, right? You feel a pulse in there.
Yeah.
So you feel kind of a chaotic pull against it, but you feel order. The program note makes sense to me. And actually, I spent a lot of time in New York this past summer, and it kind of feels like New York City. There's, because those two sounds are so different in every way, the kind of onset, the kind of timbre, but they're just kind of all in the same space. I don't know. It's you do hear all kinds of things, but it becomes this kind of collective din that you get used to, actually, I think. So yeah, I enjoyed that.
So yes, to summarize, first of all, it's danceable, and second of all, there was a rhythm an underlying rhythm that you could sense, and for Professor White, it was very redolent in certain ways of New York City, and the chaotic but combined sounds that happen there.
Sound like Stravinsky walking in New York City.
That's true.
Stravinsky walking in New York City.
Sorry. Yeah, compared to the other piece that we just played before, this is not so spaced out, and yes, you can find a pulse. And I think she was trying to relate it to New York. It is jarring, and she has us panicking up here because she has us playing 2-4-1-4, 2-4-3-8, 2-4-1-8-3-4. So we go back and forth and counting, and we have a lot of like rests during those time signatures. So I think it adds to the being flip back and forth. Also, like, you will hear this in our concert on Saturday at 8 o'clock, but when we get deeper into the piece, we have a whole section that it really plays into that character.
Yeah, this piece is about 3 pages long. We only played less than a page. There's like a lot more to go.
So I just wanted to ask one general question, and that's, you are all studying now, I think, but you're not studying music. So how do you balance your recap musical work in with everything else that's you're doing in your lives?
I mean, for all of us, only one of us is truly studying music. Tiana's going to be a music therapist. The rest of us are plastic surgeon,
Yeah, we're hoping to be a plastic surgeon over here.
Wow.
dental hygienist, going into business. So all of us are very different, but I think music still really keeps us together because we've been doing this for so long. Like, we've been in recap. It was a little quartet. It wasn't recap. It wasn't always known as recap, but we've been together since like freshman year, I think.
And we've been playing, all 4 of us together, since freshman year.
For about 7 years now.
So I think that's why it makes it so easy for us to continue to do music, because we love playing together. So it makes it easy for me to find time between everything else to come to rehearsals and to come and perform and like come out here, because I really enjoy it. I find time.
Do you have advice for other college students who are trying to find a way to keep their passions alive while they're also doing all the crazy things we ask them to do?
So while you think about that, I'll repeat that. So
I don't know, because I got 2 quizzes due today.
Professor Wallace asked if they have advice for other college students who are trying to balance all the wild stuff that they're doing.
Yeah, like me personally, I take 10 classes. So I'm very like school, and I also work. We all work as well. So we find like time most of the time after school, or like we rehearse very late at night, like very late, like after 10 o'clock. Because that's like sometimes the only time we can find, and then sometimes we rehearse on the weekends, but it's not often because we all have different schedules. So since this is something like we really, really want to do, like we will make time for it, and we do make time for it. We're even not in school right now just to be here. So this is like a big priority to us at the moment, as well as school. Like school is very, very important, but like we do take pride in what we do as well, like as recap. So.
I guess we all very much enjoy each other's presence, and we allow this to happen because we do spend a lot of time just together as friends when we are supposed to be rehearsing or are rehearsing. So it's just, you have to, if it's your passion, then we're obviously passionate because we care about it. So.
And what makes it more fun is that when we do, like sometimes, not all the time, but when we finish rehearsal, which ends at like 1 in the morning, we hang out, you know, like maybe we go to New York and we eat at New York, or we hang out and just drive around just for fun. It's not always about, you know, seriousness. It's not all about work or school. We balance it out with together.
That's what keeps it alive.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, we are friends first before like band members.
Yeah.
I think the only reason it works so well is because we hang out so much. Like, that's not.
And we have a good connection with each other too. So.
Because we've known, us 3, we've known each other since elementary, and then we met her in middle school. So.
Oh, you're the newcomer.
It makes it really fun and easy to play the music with one another, and I think it shows through our music sometimes. And when we play really good, we look at each other and we go, and it means a lot. Yeah. But yeah, so that's how we get through being stressed out and having a lot of stuff going on at the same time.
Great. Anything anybody else wants to say or ask? Yes, that would be a really good idea. You used to be director of this. You know the thing. Would you just go around and introduce yourselves, please?
Hello, my name is Alexis Carter. I'm 21 years old. I attend Rutgers University in New Jersey. I go to the New Brunswick campus. I'm studying exercise science and cognitive science. I have a minor in music. I've been playing drums since I think I started when I was 8 years old. So it's just throughout my life, it never really went away. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Arlene Acevedo. I'm 21 years old. I'm going to Middlesex County College for pre-allied health, and then I'm moving into the dental hygienist program. I've been doing percussion since 4th grade, when you could first start. Yeah.
My name is Aline. I'm actually not in college, but I am getting certified in accounting and Excel and bookkeeping. I started in middle school. I started as a flute, and then I progressed into more instruments during high school and marching band, but that's when we all started hanging out together. I play flute, alto saxophone, tenor saxophone, a little bit of trumpet, percussion, tenor saxophone, and I think that's it. Oh yeah, I did do color guard. I did do color guard. And I was in JROTC in high school too. So, and I'm vegan.
My name is Tiana. I'm 20 years old. I'm the baby. My birthday's in 3 weeks. I attend Montclair State University. I am a senior music therapy student. I have a minor in psychology, hoping to maybe in the future be a forensic psychologist. What else? Yeah, we are based in Rahway, New Jersey. I don't think anyone said that. So we are from Rahway, New Jersey. It's a small city in central Jersey. Yeah.
What do you play?
I play the flute. I've been playing the flute since I was 9 years old. What else do I play? I sing. I'm in the chorale at school. I hate chorale. When did I start playing percussion? I was 13. I was a freshman in high school. We all did percussion ensemble, which was an extracurricular over the wintertime after marching band season, where we met Joe Bergen, our manager. So he's been with us since then. So I started off on vibraphone. I did not know anything about percussion. I don't know how I got to where I am now, but yeah, it took a long time, especially not knowing like the piano keys and stuff like that. So I'm glad to be here, even though I did not start off as percussion. So I'm glad to be part of this group.
Clearly, 4 slackers. Yes, a round of applause for recap. And thanks for coming to our artist conversation. Remember, the concert is Saturday at 8 p.m. right here, and it will look better at that time. Thank you all, and thank you.